I'm very happy to be speaking with Nadine Pfautz of Chart Consulting. Good morning, Nadine.
Good morning, Lisa.
Could you tell me a little bit about yourself and about Chart Consulting?
Sure. Chart Consulting is a human resource consulting firm. I started it 7 years ago now, and I've been working primarily with businesses, varying sizes, small ones who generally don't have anyone handling the human resource function. And in some cases, I'm acting as their human resource manager on a part-time consulting basis. I work with more mid-size and larger companies on projects mostly, helping them by providing the expertise that they may not have or may not have the time for. So I work primarily with businesses in a variety of areas. I'm sort of like an HR generalist is what they call us.
And do you work with a nonprofit organization?
I do. Right now I'm the training manager for a nonprofit, and I'm doing that on a part-time consulting basis, about 4 hours a week, and I work on developing and setting up and scheduling their staff training programs. I also do management training for them. And then my other nonprofit work at the moment happens to be volunteer, and I have a couple of organizations that are tapping into my human resource expertise because often nonprofits don't have anyone focused on human resources, but yet they still need the kinds of services that I provide and the expertise and the questions answered and those kinds of things.
Why would a nonprofit or a business need HR resources?
HR is sort of universal. It's what used to be personnel, but human resources encompasses everything from hiring to firing, everything in between. Policies, one of the big things that I work on. For example, one of these nonprofits has started revising their employee handbook. They had one, they'd had it for a few years, but they wanted to revise it. And one of the reasons why they felt they needed to, not only to keep it compliant, because things keep changing in the world of human resources, but because they had snow days this year. And how did they handle snow days, and how were they going to pay people? First couple, they paid them. Then it got to be, we can't keep doing this, so let's have a policy. And so we worked to develop that. And in the meantime, we fine-tuned some of the other policies and procedures that needed to change just because laws and regulations had changed. So nonprofits, just like profits, are they're impacted by things that happen on the federal and the state level to the same extent.
So they're the onus, the same responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The only difference would be if they have government funding. Sometimes they're held to a higher standard, and also the size of the organization makes a difference which laws they need to be complying with.
Okay.
So the more employees you have, the more you have to comply with.
I was going to say, there's more responsibilities.
Yes. Yeah.
And can you tell me some of the challenges that particularly nonprofits are facing in the HR arena?
From my experience it's hiring the right people and also retaining them. Through the recession, a lot of people stayed where they were. Now that the market seems to be getting a little bit better, people are starting to look what else is out there. And part of the problem is nonprofits generally do not pay what businesses pay. And so people are feeling, oh, the grass is greener, it's time to go. And so I think that continues to be one of the biggest challenges, is hiring and then retaining staff.
Okay, and do you work with them to help in both of those areas?
I do. For example, the nonprofit that I'm working with as a training manager right now, we just did a search for a human resource manager full-time. They got to the point where they needed to do that. So I assisted by writing the job description, writing the ad, getting all the resumes that came in the door, and then evaluating them, sort of ranking them based on the qualifications that we were looking for. And then I did the first interview through the telephone interview. So they've just hired someone, so it's very exciting. Okay. Retaining employees is a little bit different because it involves communication programs and not necessarily programs, just making sure you're communicating, and making sure you've got the right benefits in place, whether it be voluntary or company paid, or nonprofit paid in this case. So there's just a whole variety of things that helps you to keep staff, but I say communication is the biggest thing. Knowing that people, how they're feeling about their jobs. Managers are a huge piece of retaining staff. And so management development is critical also.
We are thrilled that you are one of the presenters for our March 22nd mini conference.
I am too.
Wonderful. Could you give us maybe a little teaser about what you're going to be presenting?
Well, the name of the program is Yes, It Applies to You Also. And I think the key there is, and we've talked about that whether you're in business as a profit or a nonprofit, it does apply to you. And some big things that I see as hot topics when it comes to it, particularly in the areas of hiring and firing and everything in between, which is sort of the tagline for the program, is independent contractors versus staff. That's a big thing, because classifying employees appropriately is really going to be important. I think also when it comes to hiring is that whole idea of the online life of applicants. We have a lot of access to a lot of information. What do we do with it? How do we avoid being discriminatory in our hiring practices as a result of information that we read about online? You can Google anybody, and it's amazing what you can find out. So I think those are a couple big things. Also, the whole idea, again, it goes to technology, is blogging and texting and all those other distractors in the workplace. How much control as an employer can you have over that? Does it make sense to? When is it appropriate? When is it not appropriate? I've heard of people who have been fired from their jobs because they didn't say something very nice on Facebook about their manager. Well, can you do that? How much control do you have over that? So I think those are some big areas that we'll look at. There's a whole gamut of others, but those are probably the big ones.
That's very interesting. I'm actually very much looking forward to hearing.
It's going to be interesting.
Well, thank you, Nadine, and I'll see you on the 22nd.
Absolutely. Thank you.